Utah football just landed a 4-star quarterback commit. What does it mean for the future of the Utah offense? We're breaking it down on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available where we get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning in, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Utah rivals Alex Markham. And Alex, got some big news to talk about. We got spring ball going on. We'll talk about some men's basketball stuff. Alex Jensen starting to assemble his staff, but absolutely have to start with the fact that Utah landed 4-star quarterback Thaddeus Thatcher, if the last name sounds familiar. Yes, he is Christian Thatcher's brother, but this guy is the 12th ranked quarterback in the class of 2027. Like, this is a monster get to land a 4-star quarterback already for Utah. This is huge. Alex, how did it come together?
So, this kind of crazy. So with the Thatchers, something that isn't really known by a lot of people, it ended up not happening. But at one point they were actually exploring, after Christian had committed to Utah, they'd actually explored moving to Utah. I'll avoid saying the high school that they were looking at just to, make everybody, avoid making everybody sad and everything. It wasn't Corner Canyon, I'll tell you that. But
it wasn't?
No, it wasn't Corner Canyon.
That would have been my guess.
It's one of the big dogs lately, but yeah. So that didn't end up happening. He's staying at his school in Vegas. But that right there, I mean, just kind of told everybody, like, okay, it's serious. Utah's got a real shot at Thaddeus, and just how the family absolutely loves and respects and just clicks with the Utah staff, right? And so. It was one to keep an eye on. He ended up visiting unofficially this last weekend with somebody I'm actually going to talk to you about as well in a bit here. So everything just made sense for him. It felt right. And, he's been feeling that way for a minute, and he made the call. The beauty of it too is, so with rivals, he's the number 144 recruit in the country out of 2027 right now. He's climbing as well, so that's something to pay attention to. I mean, I recommend everybody to go watch his huddle film. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It'll give them chills that this kid was just a sophomore this last year. And then he's the number 12 quarterback overall right now. But the way that Rivals has it now, because it's just 2027, they haven't separated dual threat and pro style yet. So he's flat out the 12th overall. And again, like, you put him on the camp circuit this year, he's only going to be climbing. This kid is a stud. He can make all the throws. He knows how to change up the touch on it. He's more, if you look at his stats, and then also just kind of how he is in that offense, he's more of a pro style right now, but he's more than capable at running the football. You'll see some highlights on it where, when he commits to running it, he's good. He's fluid. It doesn't look like it's just like an old crap kind of scramble and out of place and just trying to make it work. The kid's a stud. He can already throw it about 40, 50 yards with touch. So again, that's a sophomore. He's 6'2", I want to say like 178 right now. So you'd expect him to get a little bit bigger, but he's already great size, other than, needing to add a little weight if he was coming in right now, right? But yeah, the kid's stuff. Like I said, I recommend everybody to go and watch that tape. And on top of that, okay, there's a guy that they're going to see him throwing to frequently. Okay. He's a monster. Damani Warren. Okay. He's 6'4", over 200 pounds already. Same 2027 classification. He's the number 2 wide receiver in the country with Rivals. He's like number 23 overall. Here's the kicker to this. Okay. He is basically a brother to the Thatchers. Okay. Took him in just about 4 years ago. The Thatcher parents are actually legal guardians to Damani. So it's going to be much more of an uphill battle, because, I mean, everybody and their dog is recruiting this kid.
Yeah.
He's that talented, but just the fact that the two brothers are already there, they've talked about playing together. That leads really well for Utah. At the same time too, the Thatchers aren't going to push him one way or the other, and they're going to support him and make sure he goes on all these different trips, make sure that he makes the best decision for himself. But just the fact that, they get 4-star Christian this last year, right? Incoming freshman. Now all of a sudden they get Thaddeus 2 years away. It's just the Thatchers might be the gift that keeps on giving Utah football. So it's something to stay tuned to and glued to. And, hopefully there's additional good news from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's massive right now. You mentioned Thaddeus Thatcher. The play, if you do look at it, this is what you're going to see. He's a guy who led his school to a 10-2 record and a loss in the state championship game. But hey, I mean, it's to Bishop Gorman, so I think you're okay there. You understand what happened. 6'2", 175 pounds is the weight. This is a guy who threw 34 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 3,271 yards, 204 of 322, and as you mentioned, was just a sophomore last year. So this is a guy who still has tremendous upside. Alex, does this happen? Or I shouldn't say does this happen. How big was Jason Beck, like just the optimism and just the excitement that seems to be building around him in getting Thaddeus to already say like, hey, I'm going to commit to Utah?
I mean, I think it probably would have happened regardless. But at the same time too, I know how excited he was when they sat down and he went over everything, kind of showing him like the different ways that he'd be able to use them. And also just showing him that, like, look, my offense isn't just one way or the highway, and so they clicked. It made a lot of sense for him. And he made the call a lot earlier than plenty of others probably would have expected. I mean, granted, Utah is going to have to, play defense for a really long time on him because there's going to be some big name schools coming after him. He's got like 6 offers right now, right? Yeah. I can't remember the ones right off the top of my head, but the bigger schools are going to be coming for this kid. Utah should be absolutely fine, right? Especially because of Christian being here and the relationship that the Thatchers have with the staff. But yeah, it's a big deal for Utah football.
Alex, you had a chance to talk to some of the coaches, players as well. Excited to get your thoughts and hear about what the latest Utah football news is following week 1 of spring ball. We'll be discussing that in one moment. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings time has snuck up on us yet again. And even if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, especially on the last night, Sunday night, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I know for me, I've been staying up watching the tournament games this past weekend, so 5 Hour Energy is going to be able to help me get through the day and especially get through these Thursdays and Fridays after more NCAA tournament games come back up. Also, with the extra daylight savings time, it's extra activities with longer days. I love getting outside for a hike, a run, and Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. There's also that on-the-go convenience. Whether I'm in a game or traveling, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab and keep me feeling refreshed. You can head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery store or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5 Hour Energy. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Post District. Discover Post District, home to 4 of Salt Lake's newest and most stylish apartment buildings. The Register, Post House North, Post House South, and the 801 Flats. Each residence offers its own unique take on luxury urban living with features like waterfall kitchen islands, floor-to-ceiling windows, vaulted ceilings, and spacious patios, plus walk-in closets. You can enjoy premium amenities, including the city's largest residential gym, a year-round pool, golf simulators, massive TV wall for sports watch parties, which if you listen to this podcast, you should be a fan of, and more, all anchored by a one-of-a-kind community. Step outside and find yourself immersed in Salt Lake's hottest dining and nightlife scene with award-winning spots like Urban Hill, Mencho Robin, Level Crossing, Melancholy Wine Bar, and Sunday's Best, just steps away. Whether you're looking for a studio, 1, 2, 3 bedroom, or penthouse, you can find your perfect home today. Visit liveatpost.com or call 801-590-6247. Make sure you mention this ad too for an exclusive incentive. Once again, mention this ad when you go to visit liveatpost.com or 801-590-6247. Mention this ad for that exclusive incentive. Discover Salt Lake's newest and most stylish apartment buildings. Post District today. Alex, there's a lot of other recruiting news that's going to come out. Of course, Utah will stay on the recruiting trail. How do you expect this summer, in a broad couple words or sentences, however you want to paint it? Do you expect this to be a good summer for Utah, or just like, do you feel like they're making positive moves in this recruiting cycle, the 26 one?
You know what? Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's to be determined. I mean, Utah's had 2 down years. You know, you want to take advantage of it when you have the momentum. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's about how the coaches can present and sell the program. You know, and look, Utah's not falling off. Everybody knows that. Everybody's seen what they're still capable of. You know, but you know, it's, you know, how are the coaches going to sell the program and make kids understand that, like, look, teams go through these kind of years, and these are the reasons why this is what we've identified, and this is why it's not going to happen again. Right. At the same time, too, they've got to have the system of the NIL in place and have it figured out, you know, to be able to land the guys that, you know, they would have been landing in the past. Right. You know, because, you know, again, like it's a lot more difficult in today's day and age. Yeah. With even landing like the high 3-star kids that Utah sees, identifies, and, you know, it looks like a no-brainer for them. And then, like, all of a sudden, you know, all these other schools like USC's and so on and so forth jump in the picture and can maybe offer a little bit more NIL or have something figured out that way. Right. I mean, it's well known, and like, there were USC coaches over the years, and I'm trying to think of some of the other schools, but there's been plenty. The majority of the Pac-12 pretty much was told by their coordinators or their head coaches, like, hey, especially on defense, if Utah offers a kid, even if it sounds nuts, you offer them because they know what they're doing, you know? And so yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not as easy from that standpoint now, you know? And I think that's also another reason why you saw last year where I don't want to call them developmental players, but it seemed more like a class that, you know, they fit certain needs. Okay. But it seemed more like a class that you would have seen maybe close to 7 to 10 years ago, as opposed to 5 years ago. Yeah. You know, because just with how the NIL is going, you know? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors to it. I think that Utah is going to be fine. But we're going to have to see it play out.
We will. And even a guy like Thaddeus Thatcher, I think the family background and some of those things like leave me feeling more excited and optimistic about him staying with this commitment to Utah. 2027 is a long time away, especially in today's world of college recruiting and NIL and everything. So Utah, this is a good sign they're in the lead for Thatcher, but I also remember everything that went on with Jerome Miles. So like, it was like, hey, he was silently committed, then Ole Miss, then USC, then A&M. So just all over the board. So these things can change really rapidly.
Maybe we'll even revisit Miles next year, right?
Yeah, hey, honestly, he doesn't play at A&M. Like, that's just the world we're in. I mean, Utah already has a corner in the portal. Like, Sammy, I mean, look.
So, and you mentioned that it was crazy because, you know, he was somebody that Sharif Shah brought up in you know, in his media scrum the other day. You know, when they had it, we didn't go to practice. Everybody just went at lunchtime to go and do the media scrums in the football facility with the coaches. And yeah, he mentioned Sammy Hunter, right? And then all of a sudden he's gone. Like, was it that night or like the day later? I can't remember. But yeah, and then you know, on top of that, you know, he was sitting there talking about how, you know, it's nuts because he used to be able to get these guys and know that he's going to have them for at least 2-3 years plus, develop them, right? And now he's had to go with the mindset of, okay, I've got this kid for 6 months. How can I maximize that? You know, how can I get him to where he needs to be in 6 months? And then we'll revisit it and deal with it from there. So it's a unique time right now, man.
It is. It absolutely is. Alex, when talking about week 1 of Utah spring football, you got to talk with some of the coaches as well as a couple of the players. What was your biggest takeaway or just storyline you feel like after week 1?
You know, one of the things that they're really trying to drive home, and I can see it a little bit, but you want to see it over time, is just the vibe's a little different, right? And, you know, a lot of them just made sure to have everybody understand, it's nothing with like the past players, right? It's nothing with that at all. It's just sometimes a little tweak and a twist to a vibe, does wonders for a program. And right now that's something that's really clicked.
Real quick, because that is fascinating, because last year there was so much excitement and optimism because what was going on last year spring ball? Cam Rising was throwing the football. So there was all this excitement and optimism and energy back last year too. So I do think it's interesting, but I do get it in terms of like by the end of last year, I know they won at UCF, but just such a disappointing season. It obviously left a sour taste in everyone's mouth.
Yeah. No, I mean, you go through 2 years of losing like that, and being unexpected and just having, the key guy not being able to go and stuff like that, and then having it just domino with some other, like captains and so on and so forth. It's going to take a toll on anybody. It's going to take a toll on Witt. It's just, it's going to take a toll on the players. It's just going to go top down, right? And so that's what they were dealing with. So again, it's not a slight on the guys that aren't in the program anymore. It's just sometimes you have to get a little bit of a different vibe in and just take it and run with it, and that's really kind of what's happened. I mean, you look at somebody like, Coach Atawaya, Jason Beck, who is a ton more personality, than Andy Ludwig. God bless Andy. Andy is a great guy, right? But he is not a motivator whatsoever. You take a look at the vibe from even just the offensive standpoint, right? Where it's Ludwig's system was so complicated and intricate and difficult to learn. Now you got a system that is so easy to gravitate to and just quicker to understand, right? The guys are going to be able to see the field faster if they have the talent, right? They're going to understand the playbook easier. Now, on top of that, another one of the things that was really kind of a big takeaway is when they've done the rule adjustments the last couple years, I want to say, where you could do like walkthroughs leading up to spring and everything just to prep everybody. That was a huge thing for the offense, right? Where they could go through and they could have the ideas on, the little nuances of, how to line up on certain things, what needs to be done, what is expected, and so on and so forth, right? And then on top of that, you have Devin Dampier that's been there, done that with it. You got other guys at the skill positions on offense that have been there, done that with it. So you add those two layers to it, and that helps the offense along that much faster, right? I mean, they're still not going to be on the same level as the defense right away, with just humming and going along, but that's something that's done wonders for them. And so, from there, it's, they got to figure out the stuff with the cornerback room. That's an absolute must. Sharif has kind of adjusted his approach with it this year. One of the, obviously the thing that I just mentioned a minute ago, but he's going for more length this year as opposed to, shorter guys with speed. So that's a adjustment that they're going through that we'll see if it works. I mean, one thing that he mentioned is obviously how it just the windows close faster and how the offense was making comments like that, like, oh, we didn't see that in New Mexico, so that's a good positive early sign, right? At a position that you just don't know what to expect right now. You got Scooby Davis and you got Smith Snowden.
Do you think he's an outside corner?
I think he can be.
I love Smith. He's just 5'10". Yeah. Like that's what ESPN has him listed as. That's very an interesting storyline to watch to me.
Clark Phillips. Everybody thought he couldn't do it. Look what he's doing at the NFL level right now when he's being given his opportunities. So, I mean, I think Smith can do it. Especially just he's got such a high football IQ along with his athleticism and his willingness to learn and just be able to get beat down and stuff like that, and be able to take a look at that film, learn from it, and then get back and get going, right? So it's huge, and it's an adjustment for him that he's obviously admitted to. But really, Sharif's thing that he wants out of that is he wants somebody to step up and own the outside corner so that he can keep Smith at nickel, you know. And so that's the ultimate, and that's what they're really striving to find. So we'll see if they can make that happen.
Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person, and that's where you can get tickets to the biggest games with Game Times. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in. They make it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Picks is their curation that makes it even easier to find better values for tickets, sports, concert, comedy, theater events, etc. in your area. So also there's easy ticket shopping. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up, whether it's Utah Hockey Club, Utah Jazz, wherever you may be listening to this to, Game Time has your back. There's super deals where it's the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. How about that peace of mind? With a seat view before you buy, there are no surprise fees and a low price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. I love the seat view, knowing exactly what kind of a view I'm going to have. It's going to be obstructed, things of that nature. Game Time provides that. It's one thing I love. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps and no spaces for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price is guaranteed. The Madness of March still rolls on, and the bracket breakdown has you covered.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
What was the most interesting thing? We talked about a couple of Coach Shaw's comments already. What was the most interesting thing you felt like you heard from a coach, whether it's Kyle Whittingham, Jason Beck, or any of the other assistant coaches? Where did you go like, oh, that piqued my interest?
Nothing too crazy. I mean, a lot of it, it's still a little bit coach speak sometimes, right?
Yeah.
There were a few things. One was a pretty funny thing actually, but they were talking about turnovers and just how, they weren't creating a lot of them last year, right? And there was actually an interesting one where one of the cornerbacks apparently dropped like one or two interceptions, and they let him have it. I can't remember if it was Scally or if it was Shaw, right? And like some of the other guys like, Coach, it's okay. No, it's not okay, because then all of a sudden you develop a pattern and something like that. Like you practice how you play. And like, look what we did last year. That is not okay. That's unacceptable. You can't do that, right? And I thought it was really interesting. I want to say it was Caldwell, one of the incoming guys. So it was crazy that they actually even put him on blast on that, right? And so that just kind of shows you a new thing on. I mean, the guys have always been held accountable, right? But just to put it out that way and use it as an example, where they're saying like, look, we have to create more turnovers now. We have to follow through. We have to finish those, and then I'll tell you this. This is funny as can be. So Jim Harding, great guy. He's he's a very blunt person, and at the same time too, like, he's very careful with what he says sometimes as well, right? But I had just asked him, I just said, look, you've had some really great offensive lines over the years, and I'm just kind of curious, which one you feel like is the benchmark, which one you feel like is the best, and where this 2025 unit can be. And it was funny. He thinks about it for a second, starts talking. He's like, you know what, I'm just gonna answer this one. He's like, I'm just gonna answer this one truthfully. And he starts talking about the 2016 line, saying it's obvious because 4 guys drafted, right? Which obviously no brainer. And then he looks over at me. He's like, Alex, you're making me look like a jerk on this one. And it was great, And I mean, obviously his justification. And then right towards the end of that, he just said, he's like, if this unit plays how I view them as being capable of playing, they're going to be right up there rivaling that 2016 line.
Wow.
And so that's high, lofty praise. I mean, granted, and that the line is really damn good and can hit that point if Harding actually is talking about it, because he's usually he's usually, their biggest fan, and that's something I said to him too. I'm like, look, you're the biggest fan and their toughest critic, like it takes he's very good to his guys, and like all the guys keep coming back and just absolutely love him and this and that, and just for the type of coach he was and the type of person, but he's very real, he tells it how it is, and just always make sure that his guys understand they got to keep earning stuff, and so the fact that he said that about this offensive line, that says something. That says something big, right?
Utah, of course, not in March Madness this year, but Alex Markham, Utah, very much so, hoping to be in it next year. And whenever they can crack the party again, the field of 68. And one of the moves they've made to try and crack that field is they've signed a major assistant coaching hire. They have Raphael Chillious, as we're going to call him, Coach Chill, joined the staff. I mean, this is a guy I saw Isaiah Thomas retweeted this, like saying how excited he were. Why should Utah fans be so fired up that Coach Chill is joining Alex Jensen's staff?
Well, I'll tell you this too. So our guy Tony Jones, right? He
athletic,
he was messaging with me a little bit on it, and he said that Coach Chill's kind of basically he calls him Ralph, a big brother to him, and he literally he texted me and he said, he's like, Alex hit a grand slam. It's that good. Like, you don't understand. Like, this guy is so good at recruiting and what he does. And so you go and you take a look at his background and everything. And I want to say he's put 27 of the guys he's coached have made it to the NBA. 10 of them, or was it? Oh gosh, I'd hate saying the other number, but a large majority of them were first round draft picks. A bunch of them were top end lottery picks. I mean, you just go through this, and then you start looking at stuff too, and like the different places that he was at when he was at Washington, when he was at Eastern Carolina, when he was at UConn. They had just banner recruiting classes, and everybody I've talked to just said, yeah, it was him. A lot of this was him, So granted, I mean, you got the NIL to play with now, which everything I keep hearing, Utah is going to put their money where the mouth is. Like I've said, like $6 million is the floor. It's going to be higher than that, and then I keep hearing that Utah's got a really experienced GM lined up that should blow people away too with NBA experience. So he's coming to the right place where there's going to be resources, and he even said it himself. He's not going to just leave the NBA unless it's an opportunity that makes absolute sense to him. He's got a great relationship with Alex, but even at that, it's got to go beyond that, right? So he would have had to have known enough through what Utah has going on with the boosters and what's been pledged, what's going on with Alex, and then also knowing the potential stuff that should be going on with this GM to feel really comfortable with it and make this move. I mean, it's a big damn deal. Like, I don't remember an assistant coach hire being as good as this since the Rick Majerus years. Like, it's non-existent. Look at all the history and the experience with that this guy has, and the track record.
Yeah, and it's huge for Utah to be able to bring a guy like Coach Chill. Obviously, sounds like there's noise and movement around other assistant coaches, so we'll see how it all settles out for Utah. But hey, always great talking about everything with you, Alex. Really appreciate you making the time to come on. Please let everyone know where they can get more of your work.
Yep. Head over to utenation.com or utah.rivals.com. Always interact with me on Twitter, Markham Rivals. Be nice to me. I like the friendly banner, but head on over. A lot of good things to talk about now. And, just basketball just got added to the plate too, because as you and me joked around last time, man, like, basketball did not move the needle to really talk too much about up until this hire. And that was that press conference was, he said all the right things, and, a lot of things to look forward to. I keep hearing a lot of good things behind the scenes, and, just waiting for everything to play out.
Basketball, football, a lot happening at Utah right now. Make sure you guys give Alex a follow on X and head over to Utah Rivals. Thanks again for coming on, Alex.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. We hope you'll join us tomorrow as we get ready for week 2 of spring ball.